Shwmae a chroeso I Sgwrs, podlediad Consortiwm Canolbarth y De. Yn y podlediad hwn byddwch chi'n clywed y trafodaethau diweddara am bob math o bethau addysg. Hello and welcome to Sgwrs, the Central South Consortium podcast. In this podcast we'll bring you the very latest discussions on all things education.
Hello and welcome to Sgwrs, the podcast series from Central South Consortium. My name is Joanne Nichols. I'm the secondary science lead practitioner for Central South Consortium. I'm also the leader of learning for science at Aberdare Community School. I'm joined in this series of podcasts by some secondary colleagues who would like to introduce themselves to you before we carry on.
Hi there, my name is Dale Gamble. I'm the leader of Learning for Science at Whitmore High School in Barry.
Hello, my name is Paul Brooks. I'm Area Lead for Science and IT in Cardiff West Community High School.
Hello, I'm Hannah Peel and I'm the Director of Learning in Mounted Ash Comprehensive School.
Hi, I'm Beth Rowland-Jones and I'm second in Science in Archbishop Magrath.
It's nice to see everybody again. One of our episodes, our first episode really today is about developing science literacy for applied science. I know lots of schools across Central South offer applied science. We're looking very much today at the literacy aspect of it. I would admit that we are quite new as a school to applied science and very much looked at the course in terms of the skills aspect of it, the literacy, the numeracy skills, which allowed our pupils to access that. And I don't know what everybody else's experiences are with that. Dale, could I start with you and ask you what your experiences have been so far of applied science?
Applied science for us, we brought it in. We brought it in 2019 for the kind of the bottom end of the year group, really to really support them. Initially, when we looked at it, we sort of looked at those papers for applied science and thought they're just as difficult as if you look at the papers in isolation. They do look very challenging, but I think with the right sort of level of confidence for the pupils, they can really come on board with them and they can see what they need to do. So we've really focused on building that confidence in that sort of those data handling skills, and the questions like comment on and those sorts of things. Like, what does that actually mean to a year 11 pupil when it says comment on the method or whatever? So yeah, that's what we've been working at, and sort of going with lots of modelling, using visualizers and that sort of thing to try and encourage them to have the confidence to answer those sorts of questions.
Yeah, thanks, Dale. I think one of the things that's just really interesting, what you just said there, was this. When we initially looked at the papers, we thought, oh gosh, it is really quite difficult, and I was nodding away you when you were saying that, because it did look challenging. But then I think there are lots of aspects of the applied science, like you said, that are very accessible in terms of the skills, the literacy and numeracy. The QERs are still on there. But I think for us, particularly the Unit 2 pre-release material that allowed you to prepare your classes and look at that, isn't it? Before you go into that Unit 2 exam, that was very much a good selling point for us, that you could go over that, you could prepare that. Of course, you go in with a blank one, but I know, Beth, and you've got lots to say on this, haven't you?
Well, when we were first looking at it, I was having a chat with Llinas from the WJC, and she was saying that the content isn't any easier, but there is this massive focus on sort of the skills section of it. So that's what we sort of tailored our booklets and things to, is we work on the sort of keywords, and we use the keyword glossary that was released by the WJ to make sure that kids are familiar with exactly what types of things could come up. And the pre-release was sort of a godsend, really, for the year that we actually managed to do it before COVID hit. because we gave all of the learners their own copy, got them to go through, highlight anything that they thought was important, did plenary tasks where we got them to write questions for their peers. I sat through it, and a lot like the old pre-release for the A-level physics, I came up with my own questions, and they started like really simple, sort of low end, just recall and what data can you analyse from this table, sort of things, and we built up into Punnett squares, which ended up coming up, which I was so happy about, because I was like, oh my god, they can do that. We've done that I don't know how many times, and yeah, it made our results sort of much better than I could have anticipated, really.
Yeah, Dale, I don't know if you want to come in there as well.
Yeah, I was just going to pick up on that point of, giving the pupils the booklets for the pre-release and getting them to highlight the key information and that sort of thing. It's something we've been doing quite a lot. It's building up those skills, isn't it? Of, for example, when you've got the it depends whether it's single or double, but the NEA part, the task 3 or whatever, when you've got the task they do in class. And you've got 2 packs, you've got a resource pack and a paper that you have to answer. And it's building up those simple skills of, you've got to flick back and forth, and you've got to answer about the right graph because it's not on the same page. And some of the pupils, I think, would, in the past might have just sort of not engaged on that. So it's about building that up and teaching them those sort of wider skills as well, about just how you approach that sort of question.
Yeah, thanks, Dale. One of the things that we mentioned at the start, I think, of this was that, we are in our school, and I think, Dale, you mentioned earlier as well, we are offering this to foundation, but we should mention here, of course, that applied science is available up to A-star. It is available at higher tier as well. But I think, for us, because of all of the things that we have just said, the accessibility, the extra, the tasks, the pre-release material, the very heavy focus on the skills base, we offered it to our C to G, our level 1 pupils. But I would certainly say that isn't just the case, is it, in lots of schools. It is available at higher tier. I think the other thing, one of the things that you were saying there, Dale and Bethan, is this, there is a lot of paper. There is that skill of getting used to, reading a graph, figure 1, figure 2, and that is something to get used to as well, isn't it? But one of the things that particularly attracted us to it was when we had looked at mark schemes and acceptable answers. And I think we'd previously had a discussion, hadn't we, about this, that, for example, I think it's unit 3 when there's talking about intensive farming, that we would not accept, would we, at GCSE, that intensive farming is cruel, but we would accept that at applied science. And there were very little subtle nuances like that made that paper and that course for us, really attractive. Paul, can I? You're waiting, I can see there, to speak.
Yeah, thank you. The reason most of our year 11 currently is doing either the double or the single applied, and the reason we chosen it for our learners is we feel that the weighting of the controlled assessment to the exam is in their favour, because you can practice those skills that are required in the controlled assessments. We do spend, come January, February now, we'll spend a week or 2 beforehand looking at old papers, because the questions are all, the questions don't change really, just the context changes, the experiment, the investigation that you're looking at, and you can build those skills moving forward through Key Stage 3. An investigation in Key Stage 3 is exactly like an investigation or a controlled assessment that they do in the double or the single applied. And we do spend a lot of time modeling for the students how we would answer it, if, going through examples. So we like it we are, I understand what you're saying about it being for your bottom end. But currently we have and we will enter some students at higher in set 1. So, we're looking at getting some A stars to A hopefully out of it. But I do think that it's a type of learner, and certainly in our school context, it's a good fit.
Beth?
Yeah, I was just going to say, with the NEA part, we enter ours for higher tier for it. So, because those skills are built up in Key Stage 3, before it's normally November series this year, it's in January, February, isn't it? What we do is we spend time going through the past papers of the foundation ones, because they're all set out exactly the same, and so then they can see exactly what things they need to put in what sections with that scaffolding in place, and then we give them the higher tier to do when they're familiar with, okay, I'm literally just writing this bit here, and my equipment list goes here, and I get a mark for writing my equipment list, even though they give it to me, and sort of building their confidence. And because then they're in for the higher tier, the grade boundaries sort of work in their favour. So if they don't perform as well in the formal exams, it helps sort of boost that a little bit.
Yeah, and I do think that again, those NEA tasks, the 3 tasks are very, they're very literacy rich, aren't they? And numeracy rich. The planning, it would be planning now, obviously, due to current circumstances. The data handling. I'm thinking of one from a previous year on the seashore, and then the risk assessment. They are again very literacy rich, which is a skill, isn't it? That you do need to train them up for. But I think kind of to sum up, I think the fact that there was that pre-release material, there is a QER, very much with prompts, not just this big page of white fright, as we like to call it. There is that maybe sometimes you see those scaffolding QERs with the pictures of apparatus. How would you use this to do that? Like we said, the pre-release, the NEA. I think the skills aspect of applied science makes it really quite appealing, doesn't it? From that point of view. I don't know if anybody would like to contribute any more. I think we might have reached a point of exhaustion there now. And again, like we said, we can only share in these podcasts what we do, and what we feel is good practice for our pupils. No one knows our pupils as well as us. So I think thank you very much for that very worthwhile discussion, and we look forward to discussing more scientific literacy in the next episode.
Diolch am wrando ar y benod hon o Sgwrs. Cofiwch ein dilyn ar Twitter a Facebook, tanysgrifio ein sianel YouTube, ymuno yn cymunedau ar ein gwefan a darllen ein bwletin ysgolion wythnosol am y newyddion diweddaraf. Thanks for listening to this episode of Sgwrs. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, join our online communities via our website, and read our weekly school bulletin for the latest news. Hwyl am y tro. Bye for now.